China's retaliatory tariffs came into effect today, hitting key US agricultural products and causing significant pain to American farmers.
Wisconsin farmers as China raises tariffs on U.S. imports to 125%.
The top U.S. farm export to China is soybeans.
94% of U.S. farm exports gone overnight. The silos are full, but the farmers' pockets are empty. So what happened? A trade war. But this isn't just numbers in a spreadsheet. This is crops rotting in fields, barns stuffed with unsellable meat, and livelihoods crumbling. Today, we're unpacking the untold story of how a global economic chess match left America's heartland in checkmate.
For 7 American farmers facing potential problems because of the president. We are talking about Trump's tariffs and the trade wars.
Spoiler, it's not just farmers paying the price. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great! Thank you so much. Now back to the video. Imagine spending months planting corn or soybeans, working before sunrise and after sunset, only to wake up one day and realize your biggest buyer disappeared. Just like that. You're staring at fields full of crops with nowhere for them to go. That's what American farmers faced in the fallout from the U.S.-China trade war.
It's planting season, and farmers should be planting their crops, but instead the president is playing footsie with China.
What started as a political move spiraled into a disaster for some of the hardest working people in the country. So how did it happen? It all kicked off in 2018 when the U.S. slapped heavy tariffs on Chinese goods, targeting industries like steel and electronics. The idea was to pressure China over trade imbalances and push them to play fair. Of course, China retaliated. And when they did, they went right for the jugular of the American economy, agriculture. They imposed tariffs on U.S. soybeans, pork, and other key exports, essentially closing the door on American farmers.
The tariffs include 15% on US chicken, wheat, and corn, and 10% on products like soybeans, pork, beef, and fruit.
Just a few months earlier, China had been buying more soybeans from the U.S. than any other country in the world. Suddenly, they weren't buying at all. For farmers, this wasn't just a bad business quarter, it was a full-blown catastrophe.
China buys more than all the other countries combined.
Farmers' plans are made years in advance, and changes are not made quickly, regardless of the tariffs.
Silos started filling up with soybeans that nobody wanted. You had stories of crops literally rotting in the fields because it didn't make sense to harvest what couldn't be sold. Some farmers had to watch as perfectly good livestock went unsold, costing them not just money, but months of backbreaking work. There's no way to make up for this kind of loss, one farmer said during the peak of the crisis. We're just left holding the bag. And China? They didn't sit around waiting for the trade war to end. They moved on.
Yes, and the president's trade war has put America's farmers in a pathway of complete destruction.
Brazil and Argentina stepped up as their new suppliers for soybeans and corn. These weren't temporary deals either. Long after the tariffs eased, China stayed loyal to its new partners. The U.S. wasn't just losing sales, it was losing trust as a go-to supplier. And once that reputation is gone, getting it back isn't so simple.
China's retaliatory tariffs came into effect today, hitting key US agricultural products and causing significant pain to American farmers.
But as bad as losing that trust was, it wasn't the whole story. The real devastation? That was yet to come, as this crisis tore through farm communities and families in ways nobody could have prepared for. It wasn't just the crops and livestock that paid the price. It was the people, the farmers, the families, the entire communities in America's heartland. And the worst part? You couldn't see this crisis coming on a weather radar. This wasn't a hurricane or a flood. It was silent, slow-moving, and devastating.
Wisconsin farmers as China raises tariffs on U.S. imports to 125%.
The top U.S. farm export to China is soybeans.
Farmers who were used to braving storms and droughts found themselves blindsided by something they couldn't control. Decisions made thousands of miles away that tore their lives apart. As exports shriveled up, farmers were left drowning in debt they couldn't pay back. Local banks that had supported them for generations suddenly had portfolios of risky loans. They didn't want to foreclose, nobody wanted to kick their neighbors off their land, but what choice was there? The bills were piling up, and for many farmers, the only option was unthinkable: selling the family farm. This wasn't just losing a job or a house, it was losing land cleared by their grandparents or barns built by hand, piece by piece. Imagine having to put a "for sale" sign on your family's legacy just to stay above water. And the personal toll? It was staggering.
New tariffs from China began today on U.S. agricultural goods, and it's a big issue because China is a key market for those very products.
Mental health hotlines across rural America started ringing off the hook. Farmers who prided themselves on resilience felt the walls closing in. This isn't an easy group to admit they're struggling. Farming's always been about rolling up your sleeves and getting through the hard times. But resilience has its limits when you've done everything right and you still lose.
We want to make sure there's fair trade for everyone and every product. We're hoping that there's a way that can be done without hurting acres.
Some farmers said they felt completely alone, even as the same silent crisis was sweeping through thousands of others just like them. Younger generations were watching all of this unfold, and many were deciding they wanted no part of it. The exhaustion, the debt, and the uncertainty, it wasn't worth it.
There's nothing fun about losing your farm. And we have farmers on the line that are on the brink of complete failure.
With fewer kids stepping in to take over, rural communities started shrinking. What happens when the breadbasket of the world starts to hollow out? Farming isn't just a business, it's an identity. And right now, that identity is under siege, unlike ever before. What happens when America's heartland loses its heart? The collapse of farm exports isn't just about dollars and cents. It's about trust, identity, and survival. Losing trust as a reliable supplier left U.S. farmers stranded against competitors who jumped at the chance to replace them. And even if the trade war ended tomorrow, rebuilding that trust won't happen quickly or cheaply.
President Trump has said, as you just heard, that his tariffs will ultimately accrue to the benefit of America's farmers.
This isn't just a spreadsheet problem. It's a human one. Families, livelihoods, communities, they're all on the line. So here's the real question. Can the damage be undone? Or is the world's breadbasket running out of bread before anyone even notices?